And that's why I invited Scott Levin, who heads up Colorado's Anti-Defamation League, to come in and talk about the state of hate in Colorado. So Charlottesville seemed like a moment where hate groups stepped out from behind the internet to show their faces in public. Are they doing that in Colorado?
They are, but not in the same way. Charlottesville was a fairly unique situation a year ago when 500 to 600 people from very disparate and different white supremacist and alt-right groups came together. It's very rare that you would have different groups come together at one time. They did so a year ago, but then that loose coalition that they had fell apart very quickly.
Yeah, they weren't able to put anything together really this past weekend. What are we seeing in Colorado that goes beyond the anonymous threats and graffiti and things like that?
Yeah, well, we do see enough anonymous threats and graffiti to cause a lot of concern. But in addition to that, one thing that's happened over the past year is we've had close to 24 different incidents of white supremacist propaganda being distributed through flyers and postings, primarily on college campuses. In fact, 8 campuses around Colorado have been hit by these flyers, mainly by white identity groups like Identity Europa being a big one.
What kind of things are they saying?
A lot of it has to do with white pride and trying to get people to be tied back into and take advantage of their privilege that they have and not feel bad about that. Unfortunately, though, it's sending the other message, which is white pride at the expense of being proud about or having respect for any other groups in Colorado.
Are we seeing any efforts for these groups that are flyering to meet in public, otherwise demonstrate? Do we know about other recruiting for hate groups that's going on here?
Well, we do know that over the past year, for instance, a fairly conservative group called Turning Point had a rally, a speaker that was up at CSU in Fort Collins. And when they did that, then some of these white identity people showed up. Of course, when they show up, then the anti-fascists show up, and there's always a potential for violence to occur.
So that was a situation where you had a conservative, I guess some might say all right, but conservative speaker, and then these other groups kind of come and glom on to the main event. Is that what you're describing?
Okay. I think they see the opportunities that are there, and they're doing that in the real world, but they're also doing it in the virtual world, as we're seeing a big increase happening online, especially through different social media, Twitter, Facebook, and others.
Any idea why this is happening at colleges and universities? Because so much of the white nationalist fervor tends to be aimed at the disaffected. That's right. But if you're in college, you are among the privileged class. Why are they going there? Do you know?
Let's hope that you're at least among the class that's going to analyze, research, and think about it before you take action. I think the thought is, though, that there's a lot of people on college campuses that don't always fit in. They aren't in the privileged class. They aren't the people that have the money or means, and they may themselves be disaffected and looking for a place to get their identity. The other reason why is college campuses are appropriately places where there's supposed to be a free exchange of ideas. So someone comes in with ideas, no matter how extreme they might be, it might catch on to a few people to do it.
I think we saw some of that when there was a speaker that came into CU Boulder in the last year who was controversial, and then it became a matter of whether or not to oppose that speaker and then kick up all the dust that comes along with that.
That's always a question for us as to whether or not it's appropriate to give a platform to some of these extreme views. Sometimes they would just pass without notice. But we have to measure and think about when we elevate it to being something of interest, are we actually giving them a larger megaphone than they otherwise would have had?
Brings me to my last question. I don't think in recent decades has there been a time when hate groups in America are getting more media attention than they are getting now. Is that a good thing?
Well, it's a good thing for America to know what's happening out there and to learn from that. It's not a good thing to elevate them to having some sort of significance as if this was authentic ideology that people should adhere to or follow.
Explain the difference to me.
So for me, I think that it's important. We need to know about the underbelly and what's occurring in America, because if we're not aware of it, we're not going to take action to try and counter those ideas. So that's on the one hand. But on the other hand, we can't elevate them as if this is an authentic, truly American ideology. People in America are free to think what they want to. Thank goodness we have the First Amendment that allows them to do that. But what we don't want to do is raise a forum for them to be able to gain additional followers or adherents to things that really don't make sense, that they're being done often in ways that can rise violence to it, and in ways that demean and show a lack of respect for others. So it's tough to find that balance. I think one of the things that's occurring now is we have the 24-hour, it's not a news cycle every 24 hours, but it's every minute of the 24 hours. So being able to find controversy, being able to find things that can make a splash has really brought a lot of attention to it, and that's been a very big challenge, I think, for the media.
Appreciate you coming in. Thank you for your perspective as well. Scott Levin from the Colorado ADL. Come back anytime.
Appreciate it. Thank you.